everyone should support. Additionally, Planned Parenthood was one of the many approved charities as part of the state employee charitable campaign. And over my years working for the state, I had often contributed through the annual yearly SECC drives with the state. Getting on to 2025, 2025 has been a waking nightmare for me. I was shocked to my core and saddened at the false and hateful words and unjust accusations that were spread about me. It's as though my 30 years of service for the people of Texas meant nothing. Being cast aside for association with a group that is unpopular with a small minority, even though vocal, is simply wrong. I've been unable to sleep some nights and have noticed changes in my personality and enjoyment of everyday activities. Delivering health care to those otherwise unable to obtain it is not something to which I am ashamed. I am immensely proud of this part of my life. Working with my Planned Parenthood was a part-time position that the board was not only aware of when I first began working for them, but for which the board has given me explicit approval of that, in writing of that position. I also have performance evaluations that show that I have always received excellent appraisals year after year after year. My first call came from Chris Palazola, Director of Operations at the Texas Medical Board, on December 30th. He asked about my job with Planned Parenthood, and I explained to him just what I explained here, that I'm an independent contractor with Planned Parenthood of South Texas, where I direct a lab that performs that general health screening, infectious disease screening, fertility testing. And I said then, as I'm saying now, I have never performed abortions. My boss, Brent Carlton, called on New Year's Day, and I was told that the governor's office forced me to give me a degrading choice, either to retire or be terminated. I reminded Brent that I informed TMB that when I applied 13 years ago, those facts didn't matter, that I had had written approval for the work that I did from the medical board. Those facts didn't matter, that I never performed abortions at all. Those facts didn't matter. That this was never concealed from the medical board, and I had put my position with Planned Parenthood in all of the depositions for the testimony that I gave over the years with the medical board. That facts didn't matter. I asked his request to be put into writing in either an email or a letter in some form, and he refused. I was told over the next few days that there was back and forth between the board president, Brent Carlton, and the governor's office, but to no avail. On January 6th, I was given a final ultimatum from Brent that I was to either resign, retire, or be fired. There was no negotiation. There were no other options given to me. Not really much of a choice at all, since termination would have had very real consequences on that pension that I had worked those 30 years to obtain. The one reward that I was going to have for those 30 years of public service. I repeated my ask to have these demands that they were making put in writing, and I was again refused. Even though I was and am firmly convinced that I am in the right, I could not afford the risk to my pension for myself and for my family. These state legislators and governor were apparently so triggered by the mere mention of Planned Parenthood that the fact that I did contract work never involving abortions, and actually helped women take care of their reproductive health, did not matter. I believe that they and the governor felt that I had to be canceled at any cost. I feel threatened, scared for the safety of myself and my family. I had to endure vilification and terrible, untrue accusations in social media. I had to warn my neighbors of the potential of threats and of intruders. While I do have support from my friends and family, I am sad that my many years of service ended in this way. I am sad that I have been ignored by the board, and unlike other retired employees, I was never recognized in the medical board minutes. I am sad that I never got that retirement celebration that everyone else got. I am sad that I did not get to say goodbye to all of my coworkers, colleagues, and friends working for the board. I am sad that my contact with them and my friendship could no longer continue. My family and I have and will continue to struggle with this adversity and go on, despite the huge hole that it has left in my life. I will continue to do my work for Planned Parenthood and my volunteer work around the world. Again, to reiterate, my position was a medical board was as a state employee, along with over 200 other dedicated state employees supporting the board members. I was not a board member. I was not a gubernatorial appointee. My position was not political. This comes as a warning and possible harbinger for others of you who are working in state government here in Texas. Do not associate with unpopular groups, or you may be ruled unfit for public service and be tested and be fired. There is now a litmus test for public employees in Texas. I can see other things on the horizon. I can see oaths of loyalty. I can see that, as some other countries have gone, that all public employees need to be party members. I shudder to think that we in Texas and here in the United States are going down that road. That's really all I had to say. I know that I did a good job for a board, that I followed all of the rules, that I had approval for the work that I did helping others. Yet despite all of that, I believe I was forced out of my job because the people who I helped were not rich. The people who I helped were not powerful, and the people who I helped were clearly not valued here in Texas. This action is just not right.
Good afternoon. I'm attorney Gloria Allred. I'm a partner in the law firm of Allred, Rocco & Goldberg with offices in Los Angeles and New York. But I'm appearing before you today as a citizen of the United States, not as an attorney representing Dr. Brett or any other person, organization, or entity. I'm here because I was shocked to learn of what appears to be the forced termination of Dr. Robert Brett as medical director of the Texas Medical Board. This termination appears to have been based, at least in part, on a false and defamatory statement made by a Texas legislator about Dr. Brett. The legislator posted on X, and we have a copy of it, that Dr. Brett is an, quote, abortionist, end quote. Had the legislator checked the facts prior to publishing his false and defamatory statements, he would have learned that Dr. Brett, as he said, has never performed an abortion and has never been an abortionist. But it appears that the facts did not seem to matter to the legislator. Instead, the legislator went on a verbal rampage and, according to news reports, demanded that Dr. Brett be terminated because of his association with Planned Parenthood, which he also falsely characterized. Further, this same politician demanded that the governor and the Texas Medical Board terminate not only Dr. Brett, but also anyone else who was associated with Planned Parenthood. The same politician threatened the governor that if he failed to comply with his demands, he would seek to withhold funding from the Texas Medical Board. What is especially surprising to me about this course of events is that the governor caved in to those demands, and Dr. Brett was told that he needed to retire or be terminated. The reason that I was surprised by Governor Greg Abbott's capitulation to the Texas politicians' demands is because of the governor's judicial opinion when he was not the governor, but instead was a justice of the Texas Supreme Court. At that time, then Justice Greg Abbott stated, quote, "Freedom of association for the purpose of advancing ideas and airing grievances is a fundamental liberty guaranteed by the First Amendment. It is immaterial whether the beliefs sought to be advanced by association pertain to political, economic, religious, or cultural matters. Any state action which may have the effect of curtailing the freedom to associate is subject to the closest scrutiny," end quote. And by the way, the case here in which Justice Greg Abbott gave that decision, issued that decision for the Texas Supreme Court, February 3rd, 1998, argued December 10th, 1998, delivered. Case is called In Re Bay Area Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse. Unfortunately, it appears that although that is what Justice Greg Abbott believed at the time that he stated his judicial opinion, and it's in writing, it's published, Governor Greg Abbott has not appeared to follow his own judicial opinion because he afforded no due process and no legal scrutiny, let alone, quote, "the closest scrutiny," end quote, to Dr. Brett. Instead, Governor Abbott's office seems to have simply retaliated against Dr. Brett because he was also employed, or was an independent contractor, to oversee a laboratory for Planned Parenthood, which is considered by some Texas extremists to be a politically disfavored organization. The United States Supreme Court has similarly recognized that, quote, "We have long understood as implicit in the right to engage in activities protected by the First Amendment a corresponding right to associate with others in pursuit of a wide variety of political, social, economic, educational, religious, and cultural ends," end quote. Free association is a right closely allied to the freedom of speech, and a right which, like free speech, lies at the foundation of a free society. That's from the United States Supreme Court, a quote. And by the way, Justice Greg Abbott quoted the United States Supreme Court and talked about the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Free speech and the corresponding right, freedom of association. It has long been understood that our government cannot punish a public employee because of the employee's First Amendment rights, including freedom of association with a particular group. Also, multiple courts have also held in various contexts that the First Amendment to the United States Constitution protects associational rights relating to Planned Parenthood. There is abundant, compelling evidence that Governor Abbott and the Texas Medical Board retaliated against Dr. Brett because of his association with Planned Parenthood South Texas. It is my firm belief and opinion that Dr. Brett has been denied his fundamental constitutional rights. Dr. Brett has been an exceptional public servant and a true medical hero who has helped countless Texas women to receive access to medical information and test results, which have helped them to make informed decisions about their treatment and their medical conditions. I believe that Governor Abbott and the Texas Medical Board should reinstate Dr. Brett and thank him for his service of 3 decades to Texas women and also to Texas men. Thank you. Next, we're going to have Paxton Smith. You probably remember Paxton Smith. She became famous all over the world because of her courage when she was valedictorian at her Texas high school graduation. Paxton Smith.
My name is Paxton Smith. I'm 22 years old. I was born and raised in Texas, and I just graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. There's a reason that Dr. Brett has had his position for over a decade. It's because he's regularly received outstanding performance reviews, because he does his job well and he protects Texans. That is undeniable. But now he's left his job under an incredible amount of scrutiny from several politicians who have argued that he doesn't align with Texan values because he's worked with Planned Parenthood. But Planned Parenthood exists in Texas because over 100,000 Texans use their health services every year. So to me, it doesn't sound like a question of Texan values, and it certainly doesn't sound like a question of competence either. What it sounds like is elected officials trying to push good doctors out simply for working with an organization that they don't morally agree with. Planned Parenthood operates in Texas 100% legally. They offer cancer screenings, STD treatments, fertility treatments, and access to contraceptives. Everything that they do in this state is 100% legal, and yet Dr. Brett has been pushed out of his position just for working in one of their laboratories. If this can happen, what does this mean for the health of Texans? If doctors can be retaliated against for doing their jobs, what kind of doctor is going to want to work in this state, let alone work for women's health or reproductive health care? As patients, what doctors are we supposed to go to if the ones that provide that kind of care are retaliated against? If I want to start a family or not start a family, if I want to get tested for STDs, if I want to get screened for cancer, my doctor should be allowed to provide me that care without fear of future repercussions on their career. If you protect doctors, you protect the health of patients. And as a Texan, I believe that we deserve a healthcare system where our doctors are reliable for their ability to help people, not for their ability to align with the currently elected officials' moral values. I believe that Dr. Brett should be reinstated as the medical director of the Texas Medical Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from a wonderful, exceptional attorney in Texas, not doctor, but he's a doctor of laws. This attorney's name is Robert Schmidt, and he is our next speaker. He represents Dr. Brett.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Gloria, and Dr. Brett, and everyone here at Paxton. Mrs. Brett. My name is Robert Schmidt. I'm an employment lawyer here in Austin, Texas, and I've been fighting for the rights of employees for over 20 years and working Texans. I'm proudly here today representing Dr. Brett and speaking out because I believe that our government should not fire its employees It's public servants because of what they believe or how they express those beliefs. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees freedom of speech, and it guarantees freedom of association. These are rights and values that we hold dear. They are important to us as a country and as the state of Texas. They are fundamental to who we are. And politicians in Texas and elsewhere are going after these freedoms, and I think that's wrong, and that's why I'm here. I'm also proudly here representing Dr. Brett and speaking out because another fundamental value and a right in our country is that women have the right to basic health care. To be clear, even though people think this case might be about abortion, and some people said it was, it's not about abortion in any way. Dr. Brett has never performed abortions, but politicians struck out at Dr. Brett simply because of his association with Planned Parenthood. When he was fired, Planned Parenthood did not even perform abortions in Texas. But what Planned Parenthood did do, and what they actually do here in Texas, is they help provide birth control to women to help prevent unwanted pregnancies. They also provide fertility treatment to help women who want to have children. That's what Planned Parenthood did. And it's my belief that when politicians went after Dr. Brett for his association with Planned Parenthood, they were going after health care for women. And I believe that targeting women's rights and the right of a woman to control her own body is also wrong and must be stopped. I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said, but Dr. Brett was an amazing public servant. He worked for the Texas Medical Board for 12 years, and they always gave him outstanding performance reviews, and we have those reviews over here for you. Before he was terminated, they also, when he first started working at when they first started working at the Texas Medical Board, they approved his work for Planned Parenthood, and we have a copy of that for you as well. But then, in 2025 and late end of 2024, a small group of vocal extremist politicians who wanted to score political points and who, in my opinion, had no regard for the facts, they went after Dr. Brett and demanded that he be fired. And then Dr. Brett was told by management officials at the Texas Medical Board that Governor Abbott and his office had told him that he either must be resigned or be terminated. In the law, that's called a constructive termination. That means you were fired. And Dr. Brett, again, wasn't fired because of his performance. Before this, no one had ever questioned his integrity. He provided top quality medical care to the people of Texas. It was simply because he worked a few hours a month for a laboratory that did not perform abortions. The politicians insisted he be fired, and I believe that is wrong. Government workers and public servants should be judged on their performance and merits and not fired because of politics. In recent months, Governor Abbott and other politicians around the country have been calling for the firing of other public employees, as well as expelling students for expressing ideas that may not be popular at the moment. But no matter what your politics, whether you're right, left, or center, this hurts all of our rights, and it hurts all of our freedom. The right and the freedom of each of us to think what we want and to believe what we want without the government telling us what we can think and believe. Hardworking Texans like Dr. Brett should not be punished by the government and politicians for what they believe and for who they associate with and for helping women with their health care. These are basic fundamental values of our country, and I applaud Dr. Brett, Ms. Allred, Paxton, and Ms. Brett for coming here, and I'm very proud to represent Dr. Brett in this matter. Thank you.
So we'll be happy to take some questions.
Hi, yes, I had a.
And please say where you're from if you have a question.
I'm Kelsey Sanchez. I'm with KV News here in Austin. I had a question for both Dr. Brett and Mr. Schmidt. First, Dr. Brett, thank you for speaking and giving your side of the story. I do want to.
The question is for Dr. Brett.
Yes.
Okay, I'll repeat the question so that anyone listening on Zoom can hear.
Of course.
And then I'll have Dr. Brett sit in the seat so that he can also be heard on the Zoom. Yes, please.
So many people here in this room said that they believe you should be reinstated. Of course, so much scrutiny
has come on social media. Representative Brian Harrison, who was the one who was on X, posting the letter to Governor Abbott and just being victimized as someone who's just doing their job. And you said yourself that this is something that was already known from the medical board. Would you want to be reinstated? What goal do you want here so that other practitioners, other employees in Texas don't have to go through this?
Okay, so the question is, would you like to be reinstated, given what you've been through? Would you like to answer that, Dr. Brett, or Dr.? All right, or his attorney, Mr. Schmidt?
I am sorry, going to have to step in, and because there is potential
Why don't you sit
litigation
here,
here. Excuse me. Because there's potential litigation here, Dr. Brett is like to speak to some of the statements that he's made, but we're not going to be able to answer that question today. I'm sorry.
And is there any potential lawsuit that you are seeking to the politician, to the governor, to the state?
We have been in contact with the governor's office and the Texas Medical Board, and that's all I'm able to say today. But Dr. Brett is considering all legal options.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, with Fox.
Is this for, who is this for?
Everyone, it's Fox Creek. The medical board, have you met with them? What do they say?
So the question is, has Dr. Brett and/or his attorney, Mr. Schmidt, met with the medical board? We did speak this morning in the public comments section to the Texas Medical Board as to whether there has been any other meeting. I'll let Mr. Schmidt answer.
As I've said, we have reached out to the governor's office and to the Texas Medical Board, and we'll be hopefully having some conversations about this.
So it's ongoing so far.
Ongoing at this time.
Are there any other questions? Or did you want to say something?
Just real quick, we all went to the medical board meeting. 4 of us went there to speak. My understanding is that the medical board will allow that team's meeting to be published on YouTube. I'm not sure the timing of that, but their entire meeting, including all of our presentations, will be present when they publish that.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I have one more question.
Sure.
Given the political climate that we're in right now, I know
Could you
a lot-
get closer and say it, please?
No worries.
That's okay.
Given the political climate that we're in right now, especially when it comes to First Amendment rights, constitutional rights,
Mhm.
of course, yesterday was, a big announcement by the governor regarding the National Guard at the No Kings protest tomorrow. And so, of course, some people are saying that he's probably just taking playbooks from President Trump. And do you think that, when it comes to someone's employment and their association and their freedom of speech, where do you see this narrative going as we continue to see this political climate escalating?
Well, I mean, with all due respect to Governor Greg Abbott, I would ask him respectfully to review his written published opinion when he was Justice Greg Abbott, because I don't see how that can be reconciled. He's very clear when he's Justice Greg Abbott that there can be no state action, and certainly firing a state employee is state action, and that can't exist because then that violates the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, free association. And also, it would be wonderful for him to review the cases involving Planned Parenthood and associational rights. So it's probably been a while since he's been governor. Maybe he hasn't had a chance to look back at his own Texas Supreme Court decision. So I do agree with Justice Greg Abbott. I disagree with Governor Greg Abbott. And I would love it if President reviewed Justice Greg Abbott's decision for the Texas Supreme Court, which also quoted United States Supreme Court decision. I mean, for any of you who have friends and family outside of work, I mean, you should have the freedom to associate with whomever you want, particularly where it's an organization, an entity that is perfectly legal in the United States. And Planned Parenthood certainly has been unfairly subjected to all types of characterizations, which I will not repeat, that are unfair, untrue. And they are a courageous organization. They do care about women's health. Apparently, unfortunately, more than Governor Greg Abbott. You know, we matter. Yes, women don't earn as much as men. Yes, women take most of the responsibility at home for the children. Yes, women don't get child support. Women have a lot of problems, reproductive rights problems, which I won't go into because you know what's happened in Texas and a number of other states. But we have the right to vote. We have the power. We are entitled to respect and dignity. My law firm has been the leading women's rights law firm. In January, it'll be 50 years. And we're never going to stop because we do care about our daughters. We do care about our granddaughters, our aunts, our mothers. We think they should be entitled to rights and not be disregarded and not have those rights trampled on and not to have our heroes, like Dr. Brett, thrown under the bus, poetically speaking, simply because he's brave enough and cares enough about women and their rights, and women and girls. You know, not everybody has money to hire, to go to a doctor. And Planned Parenthood has reached out and helped so many disadvantaged young women. I remember when I was a single parent in my 20s, I only had enough money for that day to buy food. This is really wrong and harmful and dangerous, what women in Texas are being subjected to and hurting their doctors. It's just unforgivable, unacceptable. I call for the return of Dr. Brett, and I call for the return of Governor Greg Abbott to his words when he was Justice of the Supreme Court of Texas, Justice Greg Abbott. Anything else? Thank you everybody for coming today. If you are in the press, you have my email. Feel free to reach out to me. We have copies of our statement today. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay.